Live from York, this is the Late Late Show with Christopher Vowles on Teachers Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're discussing the Erasmus Schools Programme with teachers Dr. Charlotte Goddard and Daniela Leahy, Erasmus alumna Sarah Giligova, and Erasmus advocate Christine Lester. So join us as we explore the benefits of Erasmus for teachers, the student experience of Erasmus, and the UK's post-Brexit position.
Live from York, this is the Late Late Show with Christopher Vowles on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/lsw/ttradio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Live from York, this is the Late Late Show with Christopher Vowles on Teachers Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're discussing the Erasmus Schools programme with teachers Dr. Charlotte Goddard and Daniela Leahy, Erasmus alumna Sarah Giligova, and Erasmus advocate Christine Lester. So join us as we explore the benefits of Erasmus for teachers, the student experience of Erasmus, and the UK's post-Brexit position.
Live from York, this is the Late Late Show with Christopher Vowles on Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live on the Podbean app or desktop player. Just head over to www.podbean.com/lsw/ttradio or search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Sunday Late Show, my first show back on Greenwich Mean Time as we begin to welcome the season of frosted windscreens and dark morning starts here in North Yorkshire. I don't know about you, but I certainly welcomed the extra hour in bed this morning after a seemingly unending first half term in which I've already taught the first half of the IGCSE English Literature Poetry Anthology to our Year 11 students, and finished the reading of The Rime of the Ancient Mariner with my A-level students. Our Year 13 students are now approaching the end of their UCAS applications. Those who have already submitted theirs are starting to receive their offers and have gone away for the half-term holiday to revise for their first set of trial exams upon their return, work that some of them will combine with a politics trip to the United States to observe the closing stages of the presidential election campaign, or a trip to Nepal to participate in a school's redevelopment project. Since my last show, we have also completed our whole school house retreat, where students in my boarding house explored the variety of prayer practices in the church in response to Pope Francis's designation of 2024 as a year of prayer. So our students spent the day making rosaries, producing prayer cards, experiencing meditative prayer, discussing the challenges of making time for prayer in our busy and sometimes chaotic lives, and walking in conversation with a partner from a different year group in an hour's circular journey around the college grounds. The Sixth Form Poetry Society have been busy inventing their own Dada-style surrealist poems by writing their single-sentence answers to questions as diverse as, what sound does a single moonbeam make as you lift it from the floor? And what does the bluest thing in the world feel like in the palm of your hand? Perhaps I'll share some of the finished products when they have been edited and typed up. Automatic writing can sometimes play havoc with the handwriting, it would seem. Outside my own classroom, I spent a very enjoyable and sunny day at Kitebrook Prep School in Gloucestershire, teaching some Year 6, 7 and 8 pupils to write emotion definition poems, inspired by the E. E. Cummings poem Love Is. Outreach work of this kind is really satisfying to do, as I typically get to watch a good number of individual and unbridled imaginations generating some really strong poetic material in about an hour, and I often carry away with me some extremely powerful lines. Working with lower Key Stage 3 pupils is a useful reminder of just what Year 7 and Year 8 students are capable of in an environment where they are the oldest children in a school rather than the youngest, and where they are playing an active part every day in shaping the community of their school. And if you ever wondered what unwantedness is, by the way, it has now been defined by the pupils of Kitebrook as the last unshelled peanut in the bag. If you are currently teaching in a secondary school and haven't had the opportunity yet to go out and work with your future pupils in their current primary school environment, then I can highly recommend it. You never know, you might just end up leaving with some positive memories, some good work, and a stronger sense of their prior learning when they appear in your classroom upon their transition to secondary school. In tonight's show, we will be exploring this theme of collaboration between teachers, students, and schools as we reflect upon my school's involvement in what was almost certainly one of the last Erasmus exchange programmes involving a UK school to have been undertaken in the post Brexit era. Temporarily paused during the Europe wide COVID travel bans, this project saw my school, Ampleforth College, participate in a 4-way series of exchange visits with Glenstal Abbey in the Republic of Ireland, Archbishop Grammar School of Kromeríž in the Czech Republic, and Egbert Gymnasium Münster-Schwarza in Germany, 4 schools bound together by their Catholic Benedictine heritage, 3 of which are located in close proximity to a working Benedictine monastery, and yet 4 schools with curriculums, academic cultures, and approaches to Catholicism as diverse as the 4 corners of Europe within which they are located. As a supporting member of staff, I was fortunate enough to participate in the German and Czech legs of this trip with a group of Year 10 students from Ampleforth, and I still hope to get over to Glenstal when I am next in Ireland. As a teacher, these visits came at just the right time for me, bringing to an end a period of about 12 years in which I had not participated in a single school residential due to departmental commitments, Ofsted inspections, or mentoring obligations. As a keen traveller, I was delighted to be invited to take part. And I'm even more delighted to say that we are now joined on the line by 2 of my teaching colleagues on this programme, Dr. Charlotte Goddard and Daniela Leahy. Charlotte has been head of classics at Ampleforth College, a co-educational Benedictine independent senior boarding school in North Yorkshire for 6 years, and has spent much of her teaching career working in Catholic independent schools up and down the country. She has a PhD in Renaissance Latin literature, but her chief academic interest is ancient Greek. When not in school, she can often be found playing chamber music or walking her greyhound Sharon. Good evening to you, Charlotte.
Good evening, Christopher. I hope you can hear me okay.
Loud and clear. It's great to have you with us tonight.
Excellent. Good. It's good to be joining you.
And Daniela Leahy is a teacher of English and EAL at Glenstal Abbey, an all-boys Benedictine independent senior boarding school in Limerick, Ireland. Daniela studied education and American literature at the University of Augsburg in her native Germany and was the Erasmus lead for Glenstal Abbey. In addition to her teaching commitments, Daniela takes a keen interest in SEND issues and counselling within school settings. Good evening to you, Daniela.
Hi, Christopher. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for your nice and kind introduction and for having me here.
The line's perfectly clear, Daniela. It's great to have you with us. It's great to have you both with us tonight on Teachers Talk Radio, the home of education conversation. I wonder if we might start our discussion then. If I put this question to you first, Charlotte, what was the inspiration behind this complex 4-school collaboration project?
Well, I think you could look at it in 2 ways. I mean, partly we were inspired by the desire to bring together 4 schools which share a common Catholic culture, 3 of which are Benedictine foundations, and 3 of which has worked together before on a previous Erasmus project. So there were already connections between the schools, and we wanted to celebrate those, cement them, and just work together with each other on something new. And then in addition to that, we were inspired really by an interest which seems to be particularly prevalent among young people today, which is a common interest in the environment. And it's a truly global issue, and it's clearly something that we're going to have to address beyond international borders. So it seems an obvious choice for a topic to collaborate on across the international divide.
Thank you. Daniela, was that a similar inspiration for you, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And we were invited to Well, it was a second or third even project that we did with Glenstall, and Ampliford was a real bonus for us because it was another connection that we hope to establish further or to keep further. Unfortunately, then Brexit happened, but it was a real bonus to us to have that connection with Ampliford, which was brought on by Matthias Hessenhauer, our exchange partner in Germany. So it was his idea to work with Ampliford, and was our second. The last one was our second project actually with Ampliford. And the Czech students, the Czech school had come in new to us. And that because we wanted to keep the three schools, the German, the Irish, and Ampliford, and wanted to bring the Czech Republic in, or the school from Czech Republic in. We ended up with 4 schools, which was unusual, but a real benefit, I suppose.
And what kind of administration and preparation work went into this then, Daniela?
Well, I suppose 4 schools is more than 3 schools, obviously. So there was a lot more preparation, administration there. So I suppose administration-wise, it's fairly complex because it's more than just organizing one school trip. You're organizing 3 or 4 school trips with a complex enough, with 4 national agencies that are tied into that and need to be fed back to a lot of reporting. The application is quite complicated. But once you have overcome that hurdle, it's really, really worthwhile and beneficial.
So what kind of complications then are set up by working with 4 different national systems within the Erasmus scheme itself?
I suppose one of the biggest complication is coordinating 4 schools and to find dates. First of all, that took some, Charlotte, didn't it? That took some organization, because you need to find dates that suit everyone and all the commitments that you can tie into the 4 schools. Then you need to keep everyone on board. Like when we started this project, probably the previous project, there was COVID, so a lot of the meetings happened online, and we didn't know each other terribly well. So the online meetings are very, very different to face-to-face meetings, and the relationship that was established there was very different, and much more difficult to get to know people online than once you visit them. So I found that quite challenging, not administration-wise, but just the personal contacts that are really the key thing to establish them online, I found quite difficult.
Was that a similar experience for you, Charlotte?
Yes, I agree totally with Daniela. It was a little unfortunate for us, really, that we began our project I think we'd actually had agreement for it in the latter stage of 2019, with a view to starting early in 2020, which of course was a time when travel stopped and various other means of communication opened up, which weren't easy. We might possibly consider that as one of the biggest challenges of the project. So for the administration, yes, as Daniela says, we had to do really, I suppose, 3 types. There's the admin involved in being answerable to the EU through our own different national agencies, which all had a slightly different way of working as well towards this common end. And sometimes we'd all try to get together and complete the forms which had to be filled in for our own agencies to scrutinise. And each country's agency sometimes came back with different questions, which proved to be a little bit interesting about a year ago as we were wrapping everything up. And that was certainly a form of administration which was new to me. I'd taken, classics teacher, I've taken many school trips abroad, and naturally there's a lot to do with compliance and travel arrangements that we're used to. But this was a completely new level of administration for us, I think, each of us. And of course, on top of that, Daniela, you might also recall that there was a lot of preparation for tasks for the students that tended to fall to the host country each time, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Each host country arranged activities, visits within the time that the schools were staying with them, and basically led on the academic and collaborative work which was to be done. We shared a little bit in that plan, but it tended to be the responsibility of each post-school lead to take the lead on that. So we shared the work around. And I think we could have comfort from the fact that we were all working towards the common goal that we. I would say we got on very well. It was a very friendly group, wasn't it?
And that's really so essential, isn't it? That you get on with your partners, with your Erasmus partners on the other side, because it wouldn't work otherwise. So we had a preparatory meeting as well, where the teachers met, and I think that's so valuable. It's so helpful that you can focus on your preparations, on your plans, on your objectives, with just teachers without the students. It's a short meeting, but it's very, very valuable, and that's a bonus of the preparation, I think, and the administration. And it's okay by Erasmus, and it's encouraged by Erasmus, because it's about collaboration very much. And that preparatory meeting we had in Ampleforth one time, that was just fantastic to get to know each other, because only with these friendships and with the work with each other, I think it works only with that.
Thank you, Daniela. And I suppose that takes us naturally into the main focus really of our discussion. What did the project give you in terms of benefits as a teaching professional?
Sorry, would you?
Well, for me,
sorry,
yeah.
Daniela, do go ahead. Yeah.
Will I start? For me, I mean, apart from the whole lot of work, it's so the 4 objectives for Erasmus, I suppose, is that you encourage inclusion and diversity, that you work digitally and encourage the students to work digitally, focused on environment, what we very much did in our project, and that you introduce them to democratic life and give them a feeling of a European identity. And I feel each one, as a teacher, each one of these priorities happened for me as a teacher as well. So I got a chance as well to see my place as a European school in the wider European network. How do we fit in there? I learned so much from observing other teachers in their own environment and other schools, how they're run. There's so much that we could take into that. I got a really nice insight, for example, in your SEN and your learning support, and a learning support class that I could visit. That was fantastic. Or even how you interact with your students and what you expect from them. So that was really, really great. It's lifelong learning, I suppose, that is encouraged here for the teachers as well as for the students. And you do question your own cultural and teacher identity, and you learn from seeing others and comparing. And sometimes you go out and go, okay, we're doing this well. And sometimes you go out and like, oh, we could try that as well. I really value that a lot.
So looking at differences in practice was something you found quite good.
Yeah, comparing best practice, and absolutely. And then to feel part of this wider Europe, I think is really important. Looking at new approaches. Yeah.
Good. But the wider Europe question is one we might come back to a little later on in the show.
Yeah.
Charlotte, how about you? What benefits did you draw from this professionally, would you say?
Well, one always learns a lot just going out at your school and see how things are done in other schools. There is so much to be gained just simply from seeing things done differently by colleagues in similar but such different environments in many ways. And as Daniela said, we all got the opportunity to watch each other teach. We watched lessons in other schools. We saw different group leader students, simply different ways that schools operated. And then we also had an opportunity to discuss educational practice more broadly with colleagues and peers, and with senior leaders in all of the schools that we visited. So, in fact, it was an extraordinarily rich experience of CPD within just a few days at a time. It took a fair amount of time to process afterwards just how much we got from it.
Would it be worth you explaining for our listeners, Charlotte, what a typical visit involved, how long it was, and what kind of activities took place?
Well, there were two types of visitors. As Daniela said, we had a couple of teacher-only visits. That's where all the teachers involved in each school, that's two from each school, would gather for a few days. And that was mostly for planning. We would sit down and try to work out how we would coordinate all the activities. But the visits which the students took part in were about a week long, and there were 4 of them, one to each of the countries involved. And for the first 3 of those, they involved day trips out, where we'd go to visit sites which were relevant to our project. So, for example, we looked at the environment. We had a walk around one of the Aran Islands in our trip to in Ishmael, in our trip to Ireland, and we saw recycling plants. We saw water distribution plants. So much on that one visit. Other times we would actually spend a little bit of time in group work in a classroom, and there was also quite a lot of time set aside for socialising. They set aside because that was, of course, one of the very important parts of the project, because you can't work collaboratively until you can socialise with your peers. This took more work. You couldn't take it for granted, because naturally a lot of these students were working in their second language, or sometimes their second and their third language. So that opportunity for them to get into groups and to go shopping together and to walk around and explore the city together, or go and visit each other's houses. They did all that on their visits. And then the final visit, which happened to be at Ampleforth this one, involved a little bit more time in the classroom. And the whole event was completed with the presentation by students of the work that they'd done, which they presented to a small audience. And they also presented with written work which they'd prepared.
It's worth saying too, I think, Charlotte, that it was a mixed age group of students. What was it like taking that kind of diversity of age group through a single unified project?
It wasn't always easy, to be honest. Our youngest student in the project was as young as 13, and a boy at 13 as well. The oldest were 18. And not only the wide age range, but also the mixed boys and girls, meant that we had to pull together students who are coming with different expectations of what working together meant, what working meant, what socialising meant, what they were looking for play in their free time. It wasn't always a smooth ride, to be honest, and sometimes the students didn't find it easy to work with each other because of that age difference. But I think a lot of them, and they matured massively, didn't they, throughout the group, throughout the process of the project. And I hope that by the end, a lot of them had worked out how they can work together with people who are a couple of years younger, which, of course, when you're a teenager, makes a huge difference.
And I suppose it just took managing of the groups and of their expectations. And it wasn't like I would have thought before we started any of this that you go there and you throw a few young people together and they, whatever, sure, they talk and they'll be fine. And as Charlotte said, that wasn't always the case. So you need to think of strategies, how to get these groups working together. And we tried from the start, all of our groups would have been from all the countries. So there would have been groups of 8, 2 from each country working on one aspect of our overall theme. So one group would have looked at the aspect of water, how to preserve water, how to conserve water, how to save water. Another one would have looked at rubbish, so they all had their own aspect, and they all had different. They were all very mixed groups, which meant that they were mixed in age and all that, and it needed, as Charlotte said, it needed managing. Also, the school requirements were very different. So, the German school, for example, they actually got graded, and it was a subject Erasmus. and there were timetabled for it, and they worked towards a grade, and they had a lot different type of pressure on them than the Irish school. Our school, for example, where it was at that stage we had no time scheduled for them. We had, or same as you in Ampliford, we had to grab them wherever we could get them, and it was much harder to it was different expectations, or it was different expectations we had for our students than the German and the Czech students had, or teachers had for their students. So that takes management, and that takes discussing and thinking and scheming in a way beforehand, that you can manage these students and can get them to work in groups and work together as a group.
Brilliant. And what do you think they took away from it, Daniela, at the end of this project?
So I was just reading through a few student comments of our recent project that we're doing at the moment. So most of them take away that there is a wider world out of there than just their own experience. So that they go kind of, I didn't realize that we have so much in common, or I didn't realize that their lives were like this. And I think this realization of there's another way of life out of there, and that works too. That's really important, that you don't just go, I'm doing it my way and that's the right way, for one. And that they get an idea of Europe that's so much more than, especially for our Irish guys, that's so much more than just their own their own experience, where everyone speaks English and everyone shares the same cultural values, and at the same time to realize, hang on, we're all watching more or less the same stuff, and we're all listening to the same music, and I think that's very important to them as well. So that's one thing, apart from the obvious ones, that they explore a theme and to find out more about the environment, or intercultural encounters, as in our case at the moment, and that they practice a lot of their soft skills, like Charlotte said, that they have to do presentations, they have to use the internet to stay in contact, that they have to practice their communications through a foreign language, communication skills. So apart from all these, I think this realization, questioning your own cultural identity and expanding it, I think that's really important.
Thank you. Charlotte, did you want to come back on that?
I would add to that. So I wouldn't disagree with a word that Daniela said, but I would add to that perhaps that also they were, and perhaps learned to be, remarkably competent ambassadors for their own schools.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Most of the visits which we had involved students giving a guided tour to the other students around their own school campus. They showed off proudly with some knowledge. And of course, this is the sort of thing which they do routinely if they're showing parents around. But it's one thing to show prospective parents around for a visit. And perhaps these are people that the sort of people you've met before, they know the sort of child who's likely to come to their school. So they're very much safe and maybe unadventurous territory. But to show around students from another country in their language, your second language, to show around teachers from another school around your school, that takes a lot of courage. I'm actually very impressed that the students have clearly managed to do that. That's one of their takeaways from the involvement.
Well, thanks both of you. That's a really good setup for the second part of our show, to hear what our students have been involved with on the programme, what they've gone on to do since. And in the second part of the show, we'll learn a bit more about the student experience of the Erasmus programme in discussion with Sara Galikova, a Czech alumna of our collaborative project, who is now a second-year medical student in the Czech Republic. And we'll be right back after this.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you a teacher who has concerns about your students' low reading levels? Are you also worried disadvantaged students won't be able to catch up? The online reading development programme, Dreambox Reading Plus, adapts to a student's skill level, accelerates reading progress, and helps students acquire a wide vocabulary. The patented technology develops reading fluency and supports the transition to increased text complexity from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 and 4, where language and vocabulary are more challenging. You can try the programme with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot.
How do we stop teachers marking books on their kitchen table on a Sunday night instead of wanting to spend time with their family? Is live marking truly cutting-edge practice? What if I told you that I could provide evidence of verbal feedback and its impact on the student outcomes? Now, traditional marking, time and time again, is reported as the #1 reason why teachers leave the profession. It trumps behaviour issues and teacher salary. In Guide to Feedback, I share 9 case study skills that demonstrate 9 different ways to provide marking and feedback, all evidenced by student outcomes. Now, not every school will be ready for this, but hopefully you are ready to start your Feed Up and Feed Forward journey.
The Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback is out now, and you can get an exclusive 30% discount when you order Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback from bloomsbury.com. Just use the code TTRGTF at the checkout. That's TTRGTF, and it expires 30th of November. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Schools Week and BBC Breakfast both focused on the importance of work experience for young people, as new research shows the scale of the challenge involved in meeting the government's aims of 2 weeks for all. A report by the Social Market Foundation looked at the role of assumed knowledge in youth transitions from education to employment. The evidence, the report says, shows that young people from more privileged backgrounds and those with graduate parents appeared more confident and adept at navigating their way through education and into careers. Data from Management Information System ARBA suggests that work experience provision varies hugely across the country. But overall, while 78% of secondary schools in the sample recorded some pupils as having done some work experience in Year 10, only 49% of pupils themselves actually took part. Where pupils were getting work experience, it averaged at just under a week. Just 2% of pupils completed 2 weeks. The government is aiming to guarantee 2 weeks' worth of work experience for every young person, but many say the plan is too ambitious given the current position. For the target to be achieved, many more employers will need to offer places, quadruple the current number, or at least those who already offer it to give more days to more pupils. The research suggests that there is a stark north-south divide. In all regions in the north of England, the proportion of pupils who go on work experience is lower than in the south. Schools suggest that the cost of organising and running placements was high, as it took staff to organise it and make visits, check health and safety, and that this placed pressure on already tight budgets. Some also said the pandemic had made things more difficult, as working from home had changed the way businesses work. Schools Week also reports on delays to the publication of 2024 league tables. Parents choosing a secondary school for their child this month will now not be able to see the most recent performance league tables after government delayed their publication. The move follows schools finding errors with their Key Stage 4 and 5 results data in pre-publication checks. The school's checking exercise deadline has now been extended until the 7th of November. Secondary data was due to be published on the 24th of October and would include Progress 8 scores. Parents choosing a secondary school for their child must submit their choices by October the 31st. The data allows parents to compare schools, but leaders said the delay should not cause a huge inconvenience, as many will have already made decisions based on open days, other information and experiences. The Department for Education said that a new portal had suffered technical difficulties, but that they were working hard to resolve it. The BBC reports that the government is considering a smacking ban for England. Bans have already been brought in by devolved governments in Scotland and Wales, as well as Jersey, which outlaws the use of physical violence to punish children. Plans for the laws in England were rejected by the previous government as recently as last year. The move comes following fresh calls for a ban by the Children's Commissioner for England, Dame Rachel de Souza. She said, "If we are serious about keeping every child safe, it's time England takes this necessary step." In England and Northern Ireland, it is legal for a carer or parent to discipline their child physically if it is reasonable punishment. But the Children's Act 2004 made it illegal to assault a child causing actual or grievous bodily harm. Finally, Sky News covers the issue of teachers who experience bullying at work and who signed non-disclosure agreements as part of their exit from the workplace. Sky News says it has spoken to more than 320 current and former teachers from the state, private and special school sectors across the UK. Among those, 119 say they signed NDAs and received payouts. Sky News says it has calculated the amount paid out at more than £1.73 million. The National Education Union confirmed that the vast majority of financial settlements include NDAs, but that these were not appropriate as it covered up the issue and prevented further investigations. The NEU went on to say that it felt that the growth of multi-academy trusts had contributed to a significant power imbalance between management and teaching staff. Ofsted declined to comment on the findings of the investigation, which also suggests pressures on leaders from the inspectorate caused additional stresses in schools. Education Minister Catherine McKinnell responded to the Sky News investigation by saying all school staff should feel safe and supported at work. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Jo Fox.
Welcome back to our show on Erasmus and European school exchanges. In the first section of the show, Charlotte and Daniela described their experiences of the Erasmus project and what they had gained from collaborating with international colleagues and from visiting partner schools. And I'm now pleased to introduce Sara Gilikova, a university medical student in Prague who took part in our Erasmus exchange with her teachers and fellow students from the Archbishop Grammar School in Kromerish. She is passionate about learning foreign languages, as you will no doubt see in the course of the interview, art and science. Good evening to you, Sara, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Can you hear me well?
We can hear you loud and clear. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we've already heard from the teachers, Sara, but I'd like to focus now on your experience of the Erasmus programme as a student and your thoughts on its value in an already busy school calendar. Perhaps you could start by explaining to us what attracted you to the Erasmus project your school was running, and how did you get involved?
Actually, it was my teacher's choice. In my school, the teachers decided who could take part in the Erasmus project, usually based on the performance at school or in their subjects that those teachers who led the project were teaching, which in my case was English and German. And I have been very lucky, as I have always been quite talented for those two subjects, so I got to take part in all three of the Erasmus trips. However, I unfortunately missed the Czech trip, the trip that my school organized because of an an internship that was very important for me at that time.
So what was your experience like then, Sarah, of visiting Ireland, North Yorkshire and Germany, and what did you gain from each of your visits?
I can only say that the experience from all three field trips that I took part in was astounding. The memories that I made there I cherish them so much. I got to see the countries from a completely different perspective than I could have hitherto as a tourist. I did visit all the countries that were involved in the project multiple times before the Erasmus trip, actually with my parents or with friends during holidays. But the project showed me things from a perspective that I would probably never get to see otherwise, genuinely. What I remember very vividly that was really surprising and enriching for me at that time was seeing the different nature and the different kinds of countryside that we were traveling through during our trips. I also know that our teachers did their utmost to organize interesting activities and a rich program, which was usually most of the time connected to the topic of environmental challenges, environmental problems. So I got to learn a lot about that topic. And I have to also mention that seeing the different schools was an experience, a valuable one, and witnessing the differences in the educational systems, in the curricula, that has been very enriching. And last but not least, we had great fun with the friends I made along the way there. The memories that I made on these trips with my international friends are really something that is so valuable to me. And I will mention it multiple times during the time that I will be talking here, that the friends that I made there are something that I value probably the most. So those are probably the experiences summed up.
Thank you for that, Sarah. That's a nice overview of your involvement in the scheme as it developed. I wonder if we might focus a little bit on the environmental project that you were working on before we talk about some of the wider benefits that you experienced in that series of exchanges. What do you think was the value of focusing on environmental issues with people from different year groups and different countries, but people who are going to have to perhaps solve some of the problems in the future that have been caused by the governing generations of the past?
Definitely. I think that the educational impact regarding learning about the problems was huge, at least for me personally. I think Daniela already described the system in which we worked. We were divided into different groups, the students, I mean, and in these groups we were focusing on different challenges connected with the environment. I was in the waste group, and our project focused on waste produce during the production of clothes. And the result of our work was an interesting project that I will describe in a second. But I wanted to say that I definitely learned so much about the various environmental problems, often specific for the sites we visited. I will, for example, mention the Aran Islands, which Charlotte already mentioned, and which are unforgettable. We went on a trip around the island, and we learned how the population of the island tackles the waste in a practical, self-sufficient way, how they transformed their waste system, which used to be just one huge dumpster site that caused problems, attracted rats, caused pollution to the underground water. They managed to transform it into a system in which they managed to recycle basically all the possible components, and the rest, the leftovers, they turn into soil. And in this way, the island is basically self-sufficient regarding the waste, which to me was fascinating at that time. In Germany, for example, we learned a lot about sustainable energy production. And in England, I remember we focused on food waste and problems connected with that topic, with the topic of food. And each group was supposed to bring some project to life, to have a result project. And my group decided to create thrift stores in our schools, which were supposed to help recycle all clothes that students could bring and exchange among themselves. And in my school, that has been a great success. And this project actually still lives on. There's a corner where students can bring their clothes that they don't really use anymore, like anymore, and can exchange them for free. And I think that is a beautiful project.
I think it's worth saying too, isn't it, that when we're surrounded by so much media presenting to us a significant crisis presented in negative terms, there must be something quite empowering about feeling that you can do something positive to make a difference, both as an individual but also within a group.
I do think so. And I think that this project has really, for me, for example, been the first contact with this topic, working on such a bigger scale. Of course, we hear of these problems daily in the media, as you said. It is quite an avalanche sometimes of the information that we have to process. And due to the Erasmus project, I got to see that we actually can make a difference. We can make steps towards a more environmentally friendly society. So that was definitely an amazing thing to be part of, to witness.
And if we move on to your connections that you spoke about earlier in your introduction, Sarah, how has the Erasmus programme affected the development of your friends' international connections as well as your own?
I think that for many of the students from my school that took part in the project, this has been the first chance they got ever in their lives to make international friends, to meet people from different countries, and to actually often be even kind of forced to talk with them, to interact with them, because they wouldn't have done so otherwise on their own, for example, because they might feel that there is a language barrier or a cultural barrier. So I think that for many people, this has been a very significant, maybe eye-opening step in their lives. For me, this was not the first time I got to make friends from foreign countries, but it has been the first time that I made friendships, such friendships that last till today. For example, especially with my German friends that I made thanks to this project. We still occasionally visit each other. The last time I saw them was a couple of weeks ago when they came to Prague for a weekend. And I think that is simply beautiful. I think it's also definitely made me more open to the different cultures. I will maybe slightly rephrase or repeat what Daniela already mentioned, that we got to see that we don't live in a bubble and that there are other ways of doing things than our own, that the world is diverse, that it's colorful, and that we can learn from each other, we can inspire each other. What I also appreciate a lot is seeing the communities at the schools, because those were often really different from my experience, from my school, from how classmates treat each other, from how they spend their free time together, etc., etc. So seeing these communities, student communities in those other schools was very valuable for me as well.
And did you get any sense of how the other schools felt about their European identity when you were visiting them?
That's an interesting question. I do remember we discussed the Brexit a lot with the English students. I think it was a great topic, a big topic for them at that time, maybe probably still is. I think that with the German students, we were on the same vibe regarding this topic. Probably we had the closest to them, since we also at my school learned German as the second language. So the language barrier was probably the smallest, since we had two languages to communicate. And I felt that we clicked on pretty well, that we got on pretty well. And it definitely had to do with the sense of self within Europe, of national community, the national sense. I think that was a topic as well.
And you've now gone off to university, Sarah, to study medicine. So how has the Erasmus programme supported you making that transition from your final school years into the start of your medicine course?
Mm-hmm. It was definitely, the Erasmus project, was definitely a step in the series of experiences that helped me overcome this huge leap from high school to university. So I'm super grateful for it. However, my experience at the university studying medical science has been quite turbulent so far, I would say. It has been definitely challenging to me to get used to all the new things, the completely different system of learning things, of studying, which is definitely very different to the one I was used to at high school. And I would say that I am still searching for my place in this fast-paced environment. But I think this is a natural experience to all the students, and that the first years at university tend to be difficult, especially if you had to move to a different city far from the town where you grew up, as me. And I can also say that despite these initial challenges that I consider natural, I am very passionate about my subject, and I'm very happy to be studying what I tried hard for. And I hope that I will get to have a career in research in the future. That is my passion, and that is my dream. And I think that the Erasmus project has definitely shaped my dream, my wish to sometimes work, study abroad as well, since this experience was so memorable and so valuable that I think that repeating is the thing that I wish for. I would greatly wish for being able to take part in the Erasmus project at my university, which would mean studying at a different university in the European Union for one semester. And I also hope I will get the chance to go on various internships abroad, which I think are also plentiful and relatively easily accessible thanks to the European Union. And the idea of working abroad in a different country is also really enticing to me. And I will definitely try my best to achieve that. I have to say, I also dreamt of studying abroad for a long time, definitely also following the experience of visiting the German school, but I eventually didn't take that path, even though I tried. But the dream lives on, and I hope that one day I will get to experience the foreign countries yet from a different perspective. Of a resident, maybe.
So if you were to spend a year studying presumably something related to medicine in another European country, which kind of countries do you have your eye on at the moment, Sarah?
I would probably choose again Germany or Austria, since the German language is my passion. And I took part in some medical internships already during my high school time, and the German medical system is fascinating to me, and I think it's a very friendly system to work in. Now that I get to compare it with the Czech healthcare system, so I would say that has shaped this wish the most.
And is studying for a year abroad quite popular at your university with Czech students?
It definitely is, mostly in the form of the Erasmus project. Basically, in my country, if you say Erasmus, it means you get to study for a semester or two at a university abroad during your university studies, and it is very popular. Depends on the field, on the subject that you study, but generally, I think that's a goal that most students set for themselves, to go on an Erasmus exchange project.
So if you could say just one word to any student who is thinking about taking part in the Erasmus scheme, what would that be?
And are we talking the Erasmus as a whole, including all the different projects, or specifically the high school Erasmus project that I got to take part in so far?
Let's start with the schools project, Sarah. Okay. What would you say to a student who's thinking, well, I'm not sure if I could go abroad. I might not understand people. I might not know anyone.
I know these doubts, and I think they are completely natural. Most of my classmates had them. I think there's simply no need to fear, no need to worry. I would probably just say go for it. You're going to be with your teachers. They are there to help you. It's going to be an amazing experience that you will remember for a long time.
I think that's a really great place to wrap up this section of the show, Sarah. I'm really grateful for you coming on to the show tonight and talking about your experience. It sounds like you've gained a lot from it, and you're taking lots of these skills and the enthusiasm that the project has given you into your next stage. And we wish you the best of luck with your medical studies this year and for the rest of your course.
Thank you so much.
And it'd be great to have you back, actually, if you do decide to go for that year abroad and study in a German-speaking country, because that will be another step along the Erasmus road that I think is probably worth taking.
Definitely. I will.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Well, in the final section of the show, we will be considering what the future holds for UK-EU student partnerships in the post-Brexit era with Christine Lester, and what the prospects might be for the UK re-entering the Erasmus scheme in the near future. And we'll be right back after this.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you a teacher who has concerns about your students' low reading levels? Are you also worried disadvantaged students won't be able to catch up? The online reading development program, Dreambox Reading Plus, adapts to a student's skill level, accelerates reading progress, and helps students acquire a wide vocabulary. The patented technology develops reading fluency and supports the transition to increased text complexity from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 and 4, where language and vocabulary are more challenging. You can try the program with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot.
How do we stop teachers marking books on their kitchen table on a Sunday night instead of wanting to spend time with their family? Is live marking truly cutting-edge practice? What if I told you that I could provide evidence of verbal feedback and its impact on student outcomes? Now, traditional marking, time and time again, is reported as the #1 reason why teachers leave the profession. It trumps behaviour issues and teacher salary. In Guide to Feedback, I share 9 case study skills that demonstrate 9 different ways to provide marketing feedback, all evidenced by student outcomes. Now, not every school will be ready for this, but hopefully you are ready to start your Feed Up and Feed Forward journey.
The Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback is out now, and you can get an exclusive 30% discount when you order Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback from Bloomsbury.com. Just use the code TTRGTF at the checkout. That's TTRGTF, and it expires 30th of November. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
Well, welcome back to the final part of our show on Erasmus and European school exchanges. So far, Charlotte and Daniela have told us about their experiences of planning and running a successful Erasmus exchange project, and Sarah has eloquently shared her perspective on how she has benefited from the Erasmus scheme and intends to do so in the future. In the final part of the show, I'd like us to look a little more closely at the Brexit effect on the UK's engagement with the Erasmus scheme and wider cultural exchanges between UK and EU educational institutions. And joining me to discuss this is Christine Lester. Christine started her first company, Minister Development Centre Limited, committed to vocational competencies up to level 5 in 1996, but has spent 30 years in learning and development. She started her second business, West Midlands Tomorrow Limited, in 2001, which, with a community agenda, exists to encourage, help and motivate entrepreneurs, particularly women, into business. The last 9 years, she has been working in Europe on Erasmus and Erasmus Plus with partners from Spain, Italy, Germany, Turkey, France, Netherlands, Finland, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia, to name but a few. She has completed projects on leadership, business development, empowerment and innovation for women, disability rights, civil society, health, training and education, and active citizenship. She is also interested in knowledge exchange and is preparing to leave her legacy in a knowledge base. Good evening, Christine. It's great to have you with us this evening.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little quiet. I wonder if you might come a bit closer to your microphone, maybe.
It's hanging around my neck, so I'll try. I'll finish as far as it will go. How about that? Is that any better?
That's a little bit better, yeah. So you'll have heard the discussion already, Christine, but for the benefit of our listeners, could you please give us a sense of your wider perspective on Erasmus and what benefits you think it brought to the UK?
Gosh, well, I think instantly collaboration, being able to talk to people from other countries without limitations, really. You can talk about most things, and usually we'd have a day on a project meeting and we'd have presentations, etc. But over dinner in the evening, then we would talk about almost anything. We got to know their families, they got to know ours. We knew how many children they got, how many grandchildren, if they got dogs. It became a lot more personal. So, and I have to say that some of the friends that I made even 20 years ago are still my friends. They're still in my learning and development group. They still link up with me on LinkedIn. They've stayed with me, and we've always grown together. And I think that's the beauty of Erasmus. It is, a lot of people describe it as a family, and it is a family. It's a family of like-minded people who all want to see. They want to make a difference. They want to see change. And they know what they want to leave behind when they either retire or when they hand the baton on to somebody else. In fact, I've just heard only the other day that a lady I've done 2 or 3 projects with in Spain, she actually introduced me to my first food bank. And I thought, it was in Madrid, and I thought, we'll never see that in the UK. Well, how long was I? So I've even now got food banks, on almost every corner of the street, happy days. So it's about experiences. And when they came over here, I was able to take them to places like, my nearest city was Lichfield, and so they could wander around Lichfield, and they were fascinated by the fact that we've got Erasmus Darwin House in Lichfield. They all had to have their photographs taken outside there, of course, to go home and say they'd been to Erasmus Darwin House. So, things like that they still put up on Facebook, and they say, do you remember when we were all congregating in Lichfield? I say, yes, of course, I do. So, yes, it's almost like family once you've been on an Erasmus project. The kind of projects I was on were 2 or 3 years duration. So really, we did have that opportunity to get to know each other, and to explore what we knew about each other's culture. One of the first projects we did was supposed to be about memories of the 1950s. Our first meeting was in Lichfield. We said, well, for the very spiritual, we must talk about this war. We've got a German partner, an Italian partner, a Turkish partner, and Estonia, and we thought, we were all on different sides in the war. That was the basic thing. The 1950s was very much about his building after the Second World War. So really, we have to talk about it, but to be able to sit down and talk about it without it being, in any way political or being, the agenda being hijacked. We could talk almost one-to-one. And they brought memorabilia with them to demonstrate what their families were going through during the Second World War. So it was just an amazing project, and it was so intergenerational because we got people there who had actually lived through the Second World War, born in the 1940s, and and we were able to pass on our knowledge to the next generation. And hopefully, as Dorothy and Cheryl, we want to prevent something like that ever happening again. And I think that's where Erasmus got great influence. It's more people generating knowledge together and with a wider perspective, not being involved in conflict in the future. It's more right now, of course. So, yes, I think Erasmus brought that perspective.
Okay, thanks, Christine. I think we've got a caller who's keen to join us on the show as well. Maria, are you there? Maria, can you hear us? I can't hear Maria. I'll put to you this question then, I think, Christine. How do you think Brexit has impacted upon UK and EU cultural exchanges between educational institutions from what you've witnessed?
Well, I suppose I'm a little bit biased because I've seen an awful lot of our private training providers who are delivering some amazing competence-based programs which Europe wanted to inherit from us into the European qualification framework, which is the framework by which all vocational qualifications get entered. And the UK was the biggest contributor to that qualifications framework, because at the time our vocational qualifications were ahead of all the other countries. So more or less our competences when we joined Europe, our competences went straight into the European bank, if you like, and they formed the basis of what we now have throughout Europe. So really what Brexit all done is we walked away from that knowledge. We imported it. The likes of me sat down and writing competences for business administration way back when it first started. All that knowledge is now there for the 27 countries to access. But they've more or less picked up our ball and walked away and thought it's nothing to do with us anymore. So I don't quite know where our focus is anymore, what the future will be. I'm rather hoping that we'll find out more in the budget on Wednesday, or what they do intend to do about education and competences, because our employers say that's what they'll need. Keep crying out for competent work place qualification, and we're not providing it, I don't think, anymore. We've sort of lost our way, haven't we?
Yeah, my understanding, though, is that we could, if the government chose to, renegotiate some kind of access to the Erasmus scheme, because it doesn't have to bring us back into any of the European mechanisms that the country voted to come out of. Is that your sense of it?
Well, almost since the day I must have to tell you this story. I was sitting in Schiphol Airport waiting to come home from what I didn't realise was our last project meeting. And a lady called across to me in the departure lounge, and she said, "You're not really going to leave us, are you?" And I thought, well, yes, I am departing in an aeroplane in a few minutes back home. But then I realised that she meant was the referendum. And I said, well, I do hope not. I think it will be very close, but I think we will just about ride, or we will stay in Europe. And then she looked at me very quiet for a few minutes and she said, "We owe you so much, you know." And I thought, yes, I do know. I realise the Dutch people still have that feeling that, yes, it was us that went in there to help them when they were occupied. And her age group would remember that. So yes, that the referendum really, I thought, wouldn't happen. I hoped it wouldn't happen, and I was really quite aghast when it did. I couldn't believe that we've done what we did. But there we are. We live in a democracy, and we have to accept those. But yes, I saw a lot of. I've seen some of my university colleagues saying that the university tax up the financial result of Brexit, and I know the private training sector has. Charities, the first sector, is very much struggling for funding at the moment. And I accept that, we can't do everything. We need money for so many different parts of society that we can't do it all in one go. But what I do hope is that somehow we can get that. The feeling I get at the moment is if we do, it will only be for what we call KA1, which is mobility. The touring programme that's put in really at very small cost, and it was nowhere near what KA1 was really delivering. If we do get back in, I think it will only be start with mobilities, but hopefully we can change attitude a bit further down the line, maybe 5 years' time, 10 years' time. I don't know.
Yeah, so the Turing scheme is interesting because that was trumpeted by the previous government as some kind of feasible alternative to Erasmus. But of course, the funding within that scheme only goes one way. It goes outwards with the UK student travelling abroad, which, as you've heard probably from our conversations this evening, if you're trying to put together a 4-school exchange programme, that just doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And really, Turing also only covers, I think, something like €500 per person for the whole scheme. But that, again, it's just not. It's not just the financial side of it. It's the effect of the whole scheme. Not very much as that. It just can't be. Because there was so much more under mobility and so much more under KA2. I mean, KA2 is really the one that I went for, and KA3. We were looking at 2 to 3 years funding. Once you knew you've got the funding, then you knew what you've promised as outcomes. That has to go in the application form that goes in before they even consider it. What exactly are you going to do for that kind of money? How many beneficiaries of the scheme will there be? What will be the wider impact to Europe? You're sitting there writing the application. You really have to think long and hard about just exactly what are you going to achieve, what's the benefit, not just to the people participating in that subject, but what will its impact be for maybe the next 20, 30 years. And I think particularly now we've got AI coming along. In one sense, that frightens me a little bit because I think, that's going to have to have certain boundaries laid down. Who's going to lay those boundaries down, and who's going to police it? How is that all that going to be worked out? And that, I think, it would have been a huge advantage to us in Erasmus, because I'm guessing that an awful lot of those applications that are going in right now will be including AI.
Yeah, that's interesting. I might just bring in Daniela and Charlotte here, actually, because before we were told for certain that we would no longer be able to participate in the Erasmus scheme by virtue of the fact that Britain had voted for Brexit, and by virtue of the fact that our existing project had come to an end, even though it's taken place after Brexit because it had been delayed, the money was still there and still had to be used. We were talking about the significance of an AI project actually as a group piece across the 4 schools, because it seems to me that AI is going to be one of those areas like the environment where our governments are going to have to get together quite soon and agree some ethical rules on how AI systems go forwards. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves in a real problem. Daniela, what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I suppose it ties in really nicely with the priorities that Erasmus has anyway to teach digital or teach students to deal with digital transformation. I think AI is part of our life now, for the time being anyway, and we have to learn how to deal with it. And applications, was that Christine, your point, applications are being made through AI, then we just have to learn how to use it and make a difference and not let AI use us. And I think it's really, really important to teach students that and explore it together and see how, again, learn from each other and see how we can learn from other teachers and use best practices to deal with this new environment that we face.
How are German schools and Irish schools managing AI's entry into the classroom, Daniela?
So at the moment, we all try to catch up with realities and catch up with our students who are very quick to learn everything about AI they need to know to dodge homework and all that. And I suppose it's different skills you need to learn. I think same with Google. Like once we knew that Google was there and you could Google all the information, you had all the information on your fingertips, you needed to go, okay, what do you do with the information then? And I think AI, as in the sense of ChatGPT and all that, is just another level of accessing information and getting information. And we need to go, okay, what do we want our students to know and to learn, and what skills do we want them to have? And I think Erasmus would be a really great way of exploring that beyond our own school environment.
Charlotte, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, Chris, if I may just add to that also, rather like the environment, AI is a subject which is going to be for our young people, and it's something that they're using already, and that they know that it's part of their present and their future learning. I think for those of us, the old generation of teachers, we are trying to work very hard to catch up and make sure we don't get left behind. But just as the environment was a suitable, very suitable subject, I thought for young people to look at together. So AI, not just what it is, how the boundaries need to be established, but also how best it can be used and harnessed for the good, rather than to be a cheap tool or any of its other dangers. All this is something very much for today's generation and tomorrow, and it will be a very suitable project, I think, for a future Erasmus, if we were ever to be able to pursue it.
And how optimistic are you, Charlotte, that our current status on the margins is temporary?
Not massively optimistic at the moment, partly because we've got such a new government with its own priorities and difficulties, and I don't know yet really what direction that might lead in. But who knows? I'd like to feel that a spirit of collaboration and an ever decreasing world in terms of size, in the sense that we're all needing to make connections across the globe instantly. I think that should bring us together and encourage us to find the will to find something that will work, even if it takes a little while to find the way and the finances of it.
What do you think, Christine? Is there anything we can be doing to try and keep the Erasmus spirit alive while we wait for the policymakers to make the right decisions?
I must admit, I think the last few years since the referendum, I've gone through a kind of bereavement. But first of all, there was anger, and then there was disappointment, and then there was almost resignation, and then, so what can I do now? So I think what I've been concentrating on is the last 20, 25 years worth of knowledge. Where can I put it so that somehow people can access it?
and can learn from it and possibly use it to, take us to the next step. I've already got lots of people coming along saying, "Okay, can you write us a bid, or can you do a bid for us?" So that's keeping me up to date a little bit. But I just don't think at the moment I'm ready to fall off my perch. I think there's got to be something else I can do to keep things going. I do think eventually we will be rejoined. I don't think we'll have any alternative not to be honest. Because I think for our own economy, we do need to be dealing with Europe. We can't pretend it doesn't exist when it's only 20 miles across the channel. I just think that I'm trying to stay positive and thinking on common sense would dictate that we will get back in there one day. It won't be the same. It won't be on the same basis as we had before. I think we accept that already. It will be something different. But I think just the feeling I get from my friends already, still doing Erasmus projects over there, that they want us back. Then if you get down talking to the ordinary people, they say, well, common sense that you should be here. You're our partners. We've always worked with you. So, when will you be coming back? So we have anything to say in the matter. But they do want us back, and I think eventually that's the way, and we'll get back there. I hope so for my grandchildren's sake, because I want them to get out of the Erasmus, what I'll got out of it.
Well, thank you, Christine. I think that's a great place for us to wrap up our conversation tonight. So thank you for sharing your experience of the Erasmus project with us this evening. Your thoughts on what the UK seems to have lost by its exit from the Erasmus scheme are pretty sobering, I have to say. Whether it's wider cultural understanding, international goodwill, language skills, or educational prestige, UK students appear to have gained very little indeed from our withdrawal from Erasmus, from what I can see. And I would like to think that our absence is a temporary one, and that we will see the UK government renegotiate our entry to Erasmus within the next decade. For, as Sarah has told us so eloquently tonight, the next generation of young adult citizens have so much energy to bring to the task of rebuilding international cooperation in the years ahead. Thank you very much to all my guests this evening, Dr. Charlotte Goddard, Daniela Leahy, Sarah Gilikova, and Christine Lester. I've learnt so much in the course of our conversation tonight about the Erasmus programme, about its benefits and challenges, and about the campaign for the UK to rejoin the scheme. Thank you very much for your contributions tonight, and I hope we can return to the topic of Erasmus in a positive way in 2025. Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christopher, for having us.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you a teacher who has concerns about your students' low reading levels? Are you also worried disadvantaged students won't be able to catch up? The online reading development program, Dreambox Reading Plus, adapts to a student's skill level, accelerates reading progress, and helps students acquire a wide vocabulary. The patented technology develops reading fluency and supports the transition to increased text complexity from Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 and 4, where language and vocabulary are more challenging. You can try the program with a free 4-week pilot today. Search Reading Solutions UK to find their website and request your free pilot.
How do we stop teachers marking books on their kitchen table on a Sunday night instead of wanting to spend time with their family? Is live marking truly cutting-edge practice. What if I told you that I could provide evidence of verbal feedback and its impact on the student outcomes? Now, traditional marking, time and time again, is reported as the number one reason why teachers leave the profession. It trumps behaviour issues and teacher salary. In Guide to Feedback, I share 9 case study skills that demonstrate 9 different ways to provide marking and feedback, all evidenced by student outcomes. Now, not every school will be ready for this, but hopefully you are ready to start your Feed Up and Feed Forward journey.
The Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback is out now, and you can get an exclusive 30% discount when you order Teacher Toolkit Guide to Feedback from Bloomsbury.com. Just use the code TTRGTF at the checkout. That's TTRGTF, and it expires 30th of November. Happy reading.
Do you ever wish you could sit down with other teachers and delve into the challenges and opportunities we face? Well, that's exactly what Table Talks at Bet UK is all about. Join small roundtable discussions based on your selected topics to share insights, learn from peers, and tackle the big issues in education, all in a sponsor-free environment. This is your chance to connect and collaborate like never before. Be part of the conversation at Bet UK in January 2025. Visit uk.betshow.com to learn more.
And with that, we have come to the end of another Sunday Late Show on Teachers Talk Radio, the home of education conversation. I hope you have found this evening's show inspiring and informative, and that you might, if you haven't already done so, find the time to subscribe to our Teachers Talk Radio social media accounts, leave a review of our shows on your preferred podcast platform, or consider getting in touch with a request to appear as a guest on one of our shows. If you are a classroom-based teacher or have some other close connection to the teaching profession, then we would love to hear from you. So check out our website now at www.ttradio.org and give us the opportunity to put your voice on the air. Thanks again to my excellent guest tonight, and thanks for everyone who's tuned in. Do check out our other Teachers Talk radio shows this week. We have a number of new hosts continuing to make their debuts, so look up the schedule on the website and give them a listen if you can. This week and every week on Teachers Talk Radio, there is simply so much excellent content to engage with from real teachers working with real students in real schools. You can find anything you've missed of the 2,500 shows so far at www.ttradio.org. And if you have something you want to say or ask others about education anywhere on planet Earth, then perhaps you should consider applying to join the station as a show host. We are always on the lookout for those with current or recent experience of the classroom and other less familiar educational settings. Full details can be found on our website www.ttradio.org. That's all from me for this evening, so thank you for listening, and we will speak again in November. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.